Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and today I'm with Zach Guggenheim to give our Big Ten 2025 standing predictions. That's right, media days are over, the media poll is out, and Zach and I are going to give our thoughts and our record predictions for every single Big Ten team. We've gone through, we've done it game by game. We're not just saying like, USC 9-3, Purdue 4-8. We're not doing that. All right, we're going game by game, looking at every single team, who's going to win what game. We'll give you analysis on our thoughts with where we have everybody at. Zach and I will then debate a few different teams that we have in different spots, and at the end we will answer any of your questions and stuff like that in the chat. So if you like this type of content, please do like, subscribe, helps us out a whole lot. If you're on podcast, give us a 5-star review. Follow us on Twitter /X, TikTok, Instagram, all those good things. I'll now bring in the guy who is very confident in his Big Ten predictions, but he was not nearly as low on Iowa as I thought he would be. Zach Guggenheim, are you in love with Iowa now? What's the deal?
I have been saying that I think it's a slow fade because as Kirk Ferentz and as Phil Parker get older, they might enjoy the shuffleboard life more rather than be coaching. I just think the game's passing them by a little bit. That's not to say that they're terrible. I just don't think they're going to get better.
Wow. All right. Heavy hitting analysis from there, Zach. Zach, we appreciate you coming on and giving your thoughts on Iowa, even if the Iowa fans are going to try to rake you over the coals after this. But
I don't know.
They won't too much.
I don't know if they will. I honestly,
what team do you think will hate you most after you give your predictions?
well, I think I'm going to make Dylan very sad, and I feel very bad about that. And
Sorry, Dylan.
I'm trying to think who I think will be the most upset. Probably a combination of UCLA and Maryland.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You were really too down on any certain Actually, no, I know the team that will hate you after this. It's the team that I thought would hate me after this, but then you had them 2 losses lower than me. You know who I'm talking about?
You talking about Michigan?
Yeah. Yeah, Michigan fans are going to hate you after this one.
Well, they're not going to hate me for my last game.
Yeah. That's true. Anyway, all right, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'll give mine first, and then we'll let Zach do his. All right, so here are my Big Ten predictions. So we're trying to put this in the middle here. I don't know if it exactly works, but we're going with it. I feel like it's a little bit more stylish, but
you should move your
face over there.
You should. Oh, is it like that? Oh, okay. It's weird on mine. Like when I look at it on my screen, now I'm blocked. But okay,
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Yeah. Oh, well. All right. Let's see. So my predictions of the Big Ten, this will take a minute because I'm going to go through each one. But I have Ohio State first in the conference at 11-1 overall, 8-1 in the conference with their elite roster, likely to defeat Texas, in my opinion. I would just say likely. I lean toward Ohio State beating Texas. But like I said, I'm not going to pick them to beat them until they actually do it. I have them stumbling against Michigan, and then I do think that week 5 through 8 stretch with 3 road games is going to be very, very difficult. Illinois, Wisconsin, Washington there. I don't have them losing to any of them, but I could definitely see it happening. Penn State follows closely at 11-1, 8-1 in the conference with their trenches neutralizing Oregon for a key win early on in the year, though I do think Ohio State's home field edge proves too much, and they should handle the tough tests at Iowa, and they should handle Indiana, but we'll see. I mean, Indiana could surprise. I shouldn't say surprise. They're not going to surprise anything anymore. Oregon, I have 11-1, 8-1. Powerhouse, don't see them dropping 2 games. I've seen some people have them 2 or 3 losses. I mean, I have them losing to Penn State, and then Indiana, Iowa, or Washington. They can certainly lose one of those. Some of you can pull an upset there, though the road test at Indiana, I think, would have been flipped, in my opinion, if Indiana was playing at home. Illinois, 10-2, 7-2, second straight double-digit win season with wins over Indiana and USC, but losses to Ohio State and at Washington, securing a playoff berth, in my opinion. I have Michigan at 9-3, 7-2. I have them starting 2-2 with early losses to Oklahoma and Nebraska. Then they beat USC, or no, they fall to USC's Lincoln Riley. He gets revenge, but an upset over Ohio Sate puts them in the playoffs, in my opinion. Indiana at 9-3, 6-3 drops the games to Penn State, Oregon, and a tight one to Illinois, though they could steal a win against Penn State, landing them somewhere between 9 and 11 wins, in my opinion. Iowa at 8-4, 5-4 in the conference, faces a tough home slate against Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana. All losses in my book. That's where I have them right now, plus a defeat to one of their rivals, either Nebraska, Wisconsin, or Minnesota. But they could definitely upset one or two for a 7-5 to 9-3 range, in my opinion. Minnesota, I also have it 8-4, 5-4 in the conference, exceeds their 6-5 win total on FanDuel, leaning to a strong run game despite concerns about Drake Lindsey. Some people have. I don't have them because I feel good about the run game. Darius Taylor, AJ Turner, Cam Davis, those guys, in my opinion, are really good. Nebraska, I also have 8-4, 5-4, improves with losses to Penn State, Iowa, Minnesota, and a sneaky Maryland upset. I know that's my hot take here. Though stronger than expected, run game or a win over USC at home could push them to 9-3. I have USC, sorry USC fans, at 7-5, 5-4. They beat Michigan but struggle on tough road trips. I think this is the hardest part about USC's schedule. Nebraska, Notre Dame, Oregon, and Illinois all on the road, with their only home loss to Iowa. A 9-win ceiling is reachable. I shouldn't say ceiling. 9 wins is reachable, but with better play on the road. They'll have to play well on the road. Washington, I have it 8-4, 5-4, gets screwed by the tiebreaker, falling to Ohio State. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Oregon, though a road win at Wisconsin feels like a defining moment, or a road win for Wisconsin feels like a defining moment for Luke Fickle's squad, and a 10-2 record could land them in the playoffs if they're able to get 2 more wins than what I have them projected here. Wisconsin is my hot take at 6-6, 4-5, reach a bowl game. I have them losing to Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, and Michigan, a couple others, but upsetting Washington and winning one of their rivalry games against either Iowa or Minnesota. Fueled by Fickle's culture and talent, that's where I have them at. Michigan State at 5-7, missing a bowl, 2-7 in the conference. I think they start 3-0, but they fade against Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, and Penn State. Missing a bowl. The hot seat is heating up for Jonathan Smith's seat. Northwestern, I have it 4-8, 2-7 in the conference. Struggles with early losses to Tulane and Oregon, hampered by pass protection and secondary issues against exciting teams like Nebraska, Illinois, USC, and Penn State, potentially leading to a Zach Lujan mid-season exit. Rutgers also, predict that. Rutgers also 5-7, 2-7, faces a brutal schedule with Iowa, Minnesota, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, Ohio State, and Penn State, making their record look worse than I think their efforts would indicate, but that's where I have them at, just barely missing a bowl game. UCLA at 3-9, 1-8, gets crushed by a tough out-of-conference. I shouldn't say it's super tough, but just a bad start, right? Utah, UNLV, road games at Northwestern and Michigan State. Maryland at 4-8, 1-8. I think they start 3-0, right? We know Mike Locksley to do that, but they falter on the road against Michigan State, UCLA, Rutgers, and Wisconsin, though a 5th win could save Mike Locksley if they're able to get one. And then finally, Purdue at 2-10, 0-9. This is my toughest call. All right, new players, transfers, disrupt chemistry. And despite Barry Odom, I think Barry Odom's a good coach. I think he has potential, but the roster turnover and everything else, I just don't know if I can confidently pick anything better than that. Like Purdue, sure, if all the transfers hit and everything looks great, yeah, they could get to a bowl game, I guess, but I don't feel great about it. All right, Indiana fans hate me at this point. I picked Illinois to beat them. Zach, you can do yours and see if you have any more luck.
I can't believe that you picked Illinois over Indiana. Wow. I thought you're the biggest Indiana homer out there.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I feel like I'm going to regret a lot of this, but this is my thoughts for now. I have Penn State as the sole team in first place with 1 loss to Ohio State, because I just don't think they're going to get that Ohio State monkey off their back this season. I just don't think they're built for it. Second place, or I have a huge tie for second place, but the tiebreaker goes to Illinois, who I have at 10-2, 7-2 in the conference, with losses at Indiana and at Washington. I think those are two. I think Indiana is an interesting game for them. I actually wonder if Indiana is built to maybe exploit some things with Illinois. Just I think their playmakers could be tough. And then I think the road game at Washington is pretty tough. The third place team, they get the next tiebreakers, Oregon. Oregon, I did give a second loss at Washington. You'll see a trend here with Washington. Fourth place, still in a tie for second, is USC at 9-3. I have them starting 4-1 before they lose at Illinois. They pick up a win at home against Michigan before falling to Notre Dame out of conference. And then they win every single game the rest of the way except at Oregon at Autzen Stadium. Also tied for second is Ohio State, 10-2. I do have them beating Texas in the opener. I think that's a toss-up game, quite honestly. But I have them edging out Texas because they have the two best players in college football. It's at home. And I have them winning all the way up to Illinois, where I think Illinois gets the upset. I've been saying it since early summer. I think that Illinois gets Ohio State. And then I'm just not going to pick Ohio State to beat Michigan until they prove otherwise. So those are my two losses for Ohio State. This is the one that I'm like, I can't believe I did this, but I'll explain it in a minute. I have Nebraska finishing out my 5-way tie for second. I don't like this.
That was such a crazy sentence. I have Nebraska finishing out my 5-way tie. Just crazy sentence.
I don't like it, but I look at the schedule and I'm like, they get Michigan at home, and then they have a bye. And like, you just look at the next 4 games: home, Michigan State, at Maryland, at Minnesota, home against Northwestern. Like, Minnesota's the toughest game in that stretch. And I'm like, I don't know if I like Minnesota to go on the road and beat them, especially when they're in their own 4-game stretch. I just don't love that. They do play USC at home, but I think USC's got a little too much juice, and USC's coming off a bye. Nebraska is playing their 5th straight game. So I just think Nebraska drops one there. And then they go on the road to Penn State. I don't think they beat Penn State. But man, it's really hard to look at some of these individual games and think, oh, they definitely are going to lose that game. They're the one I just don't think. I don't like that. But in this exercise, they're 10-2. Now I've in sole possession of 7th place, I have Indiana. Indiana, I have beating Illinois at home, but then losing the next week at Iowa. Then I think they lose to Oregon on the road, and they lose to Penn State, but they win everything else. I have Washington 8-4, 5-4 in the conference. And really, I have them losing to Ohio State at home and then losing on the road against Michigan, against Wisconsin. And I had another loss in there. Are you sure that that's not supposed to be 9-3 for Washington?
From what I looked at, I'll double check, but go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, let me go back and look. I wonder if I made a mistake on my thing. Did I sent you the website? Let me look it up here.
I got it right here. You have
Where's my 4th loss for them?
No, you had them 9-3.
Aha!
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I got that wrong.
So I've been 9-3.
Sorry, I'll fix it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep going. I'll fix it. You had Michigan 8-4 too.
Yeah,
so.
Michigan. I have Michigan 8-4, which is where Michigan fans are not going to like me for that. I just think their road slate is hard, and so I actually have a couple of upsets. At Nebraska, I think might be a mild upset. I have them losing to Michigan State, which I know Michigan is going to hate me for, but I'll explain that in a minute. I just don't love it. And here's my thing though. I think Michigan is going to struggle in the early and mid parts of the season, but they're going to finish strong. I think they'll get things going. No more suspensions for Moore. No more, I think growing pains for Underwood will be over. I think they upset Ohio State in the last game and they finish 8-4. I've got, I think this is I have Northwestern at, I must have, I screwed something up with Northwestern, I think, because I don't think I wanted them at 7-5.
Yeah, you had them at 7-5 on here. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. I think, let me look at Northwestern here. No. All right. Why is this not working? I'm sorry, guys. Let me look at this here. Where did I have them?
Yeah, you have Northwestern 7-5 and 4-5. You have them beating Tulane, Western Illinois, UCLA, UL Monroe, Purdue, Michigan, and Minnesota.
I
And
don't.
then they lose to Illinois, USC, Nebraska, Penn State, and Oregon.
This is what I did. Michigan's supposed to be 9-3 too.
Okay. So
sorry, I totally
Michigan.
botched that. I'm sorry about that. I was gonna say, I was like, this is not what my papers. See, if we stuck to pen and paper, be doing this so much better. That's my
pen and paper doesn't automatically do the
that's
the
fair.
tiebreakers.
Okay,
so the list of tiebreakers in the Big Ten is like forever long.
Yeah. Well, and so that actually shifts things. So Oregon would get the tiebreaker over Illinois at that point. Anyway, so let's go back here. I have Washington at 9-3, Michigan at 9-3, Indiana at 9-3, Iowa at 7-5. There we go. I think it's all fixed now. Iowa at 7-5. I have them starting 5-0. I think they get traditionally they have been better on the road against Iowa State. So I think they start 5-0, but then they just have a tough slate after that. At Wisconsin, loss. Penn State at home, I think that's a loss. Oregon at home, I think that's a loss. At USC, that's a loss. And I think Nebraska's a toss-up. I think Nebraska finally gets them at home. And then I think Minnesota, I have 7-5 as well. I think they start 4-0, and then again, it's tough. At Ohio State, they play Nebraska at home. I think that's a loss. At Iowa, I have as a loss. At Oregon, and I have Northwestern upsetting Minnesota on the lake. So I have them at 7-5. I have Wisconsin 5-7, 3-6 in conference. I just don't see them beating Alabama. I do think they get a couple of wins that you don't expect. Washington at home, Iowa at home. But I think the last two segments of their schedule are just brutal. I have them losing Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, and then losing Indiana, Illinois, and Minnesota to finish 5-7. Michigan State, I think, is a bit of a sleeper. I have them at 6-6, 3-6 in the conference. That I think is also wrong. I think I screwed something up with Michigan State. Hold on. I see what I did there. Nope, I do have 6-6. So I have 6-6 for them. 3 wins to start the season, and then I think they lose to USC, they lose to Nebraska, lose to Indiana and Minnesota, but I think they trade wins with UCLA, and then I think they do get an upset somewhere, and I have them upsetting Michigan, which I think will be crazy. But I just think Jonathan Smith seemed more confident than I expected him to be at Big Ten Media Days. And I like them to get an upset somewhere. And I just thought the rivalry game made sense. Inconsistency for Michigan. I think Michigan State gets them there. Northwestern, I think, goes 6-6. I just think the pattern for them is they have a bad year, then they have a good year. I believe in that coaching staff. I do think they get a win against Tulane. I think that's going to be a tougher game than people expect, but I think they get that win on the road. I like them beating Western Illinois. Obviously lose to Oregon, but then they get wins against UCLA, UL Monroe, Purdue, and then I have them beating Minnesota, but then losing to everyone else. And then the last several teams are kind of it's just tough. Rutgers, I think we probably have the same schedule, right? Get 3 wins, and then it's going to be a fight the rest of the way. I have them getting wins against Purdue and Maryland. UCLA, I have them getting 1 win in conference, and that's it. I believe that's Maryland that I have them beating. Yeah, I have them beating Maryland at home. Purdue and Maryland, I have them winless in the conference, and I think it's just gonna be rough for both those teams. You're muted.
Sorry, I muted myself because I'm finishing the stuff over here to make sure we have it right. All right, so why don't you do the chat for a second? Just go through if anybody has any questions or if they had anything while I finish this up really fast.
Well, I'll just say for one, Billy, I'm not drinking. I'm not. I just don't know how to operate technology. That's
good old pen and paper. If you don't have that. All right. I am checking the records really fast, and then I'll be good to go. So just do a few more.
Yeah. So Cleveland Mike, who is OSU losing to? I think we both have them losing to Michigan, and I have them losing to Illinois as well. Yes. Let's see. Mike, friend of the show, says Nebraska at 10-2 is the craziest pick on either board. 10-2, their best record the last 8 years is 6-6. I don't disagree with you. I will pick apart my own pick. I just encourage for anyone who feels that way, which I did, just go through the schedule on a one-off basis and think, okay, who do I think is the better team, and who has more coming back? That I think that's the problem, but I think that's been the problem with Nebraska for the past several years. So I'm with you. I don't like my pick there. I really don't. But I'd also Nebraska has the easiest schedule maybe in the conference this year. Or at least it is one of the more favorable.
I think it is the easiest, personally.
Yeah.
Most favorable. That's what I try to say.
Yeah. So.
All right, do one more. I'm loading it up, and then I'll be ready.
Yeah. Chris Wilds, you like Wisconsin over Iowa. I know it's at home, but you're between Michigan and Ohio State. It's in the midst of a tough 4-game stretch. I get that. I just don't love Iowa traveling to Wisconsin on a bye. Like, I just don't. And I think Wisconsin's going to be desperate. Like, I think they're going to be really desperate. So, Dave Valensky, thank you for the 10. Appreciate that. The super chat. Minnesota is playing Northwestern at Wrigley. I know a lot of Minnesota fans that are going to that game, and Northwestern hasn't won at Wrigley Field yet. I did not realize they were playing at Wrigley. That might actually change my thought there.
Illinois and Ohio State at Wrigley last year.
Yeah, I did not realize that was a Wrigley game. That might change my pick there.
Okay. All right. I got it set up now. So, all right, we're good to go. Yep. Okay. What else is that all Dave said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that is like an interesting aspect to it, right? Because any home game for Northwestern at Wrigley isn't really like a home game.
No, it's actually a neutral site experience for the visiting team.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a interesting atmosphere that like so many road fans want to go to it. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's weird. All right. So here we go, next to each other. As you can see, next to each other, like we honestly have some pretty close records, but because of the tiebreakers, like I feel like that's almost like the biggest thing here is just how crazy the tiebreakers are. Because you have USC going 9-3 and 7-2, but they're all the way up in fourth for yours. I have them going 7-5. 5-4, and they're all the way down to 10th in the bottom half of the Big Ten for me. I think for me, like the biggest thing was for USC was I I don't love the road slate for USC. I feel
Yeah.
like it's going to be really, really tough for them to go. Like when I first went through and did USC, I was there with you. I was at like 9-3 with them. And then when I started thinking through some of the road games, like at Illinois, at Nebraska, those are two games where I'm like, okay, like USC has a very good chance of winning this game. Nebraska's travel isn't nearly as bad as Illinois, or isn't as bad as nearly as bad as going to Illinois. But that's a tough trip to go all the way over to Illinois. Illinois is a grinded out team. They're going to play you close the entire time. I feel like Illinois, and maybe I'm banking on the wrong thing here, but they're so good at coming out with with those games at the end of the game where they need to be clutch, and they have Luke
Hmm.
Altmaier who's a gamer. I just feel like they're going to do so much of that
Yeah.
this season, and it's going to propel them forward to get them into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But that's also a reason that many people are picking them to go like 7-5 is because they're like, oh, they just got lucky with, close games the past couple years. I feel like at a
Yeah.
certain point, it's not luck. You do it enough, it's not luck. You're just really good in close games.
Yeah. There is less of a margin for error for Illinois. I just to your USC point, the one thing that is a little bit of a saving grace is that particularly before Nebraska, you have a bye. So you have time to like get right after Notre Dame. Um, and their road game against Oregon, like it's on the same coast. So, and they have back-to-back home games. I'm not picking them to beat Oregon, but
Mm-hmm.
I I have them losing 3 and they're all on the road. But like I think some of their swing games, like Michigan at home, they get Michigan after Michigan plays Wisconsin at home.
Mm-hmm.
And like they have a bye. So like they have time to get right. And I like Wisconsin at 5-7 doesn't sound like a good team. I think they're gonna get back to beating teams up though a little bit. And I don't again, I just think I don't know. I don't think that I think USC might benefit from some of the time off and some of those differences there. So that's but I can see again, we talked about it. I think they're one of my biggest wild cards where I think they could go 6-6, even 5-7, because the schedule is like I think you can get upset by Michigan State. Heck, who knows what's going to happen at Ross 8 at night?
If it was at Michigan State, I'd be with you. But the fact that they're coming over, I think what I learned last year is travel is real. The travel
Yeah,
is
travel
real,
is very real.
and that has to be considered every time one of these teams goes out and plays somebody out
Yep.
west. Yes, Ross 8 is real, but I would feel better about that if it was later on in the season.
Yeah.
For Purdue, I don't know, because if early on, like I feel like Purdue's still going to be finding themselves with the transfers and everything else. I feel like if Purdue gets wins, it's going to come later in the season because you look at Purdue. Oh, well, that's the hard part. Like they face good teams at the end of the season. You look at after their first bye week, so they have USC and Notre Dame bye week. Then they have Illinois, Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, Indiana. I mean, you have chances there against Northwestern, but that's on the road. You get a home
Mhm.
game against Rutgers. Like you play Washington, like maybe, but that's at Washington. Like Purdue's not going to
Yep.
go to Washington and take care of that.
No.
And then we saw what
No.
Signetti did to Purdue last year, so I don't know why. you know, I
Yeah.
think anything different.
Purdue's in a lot of trouble this year.
Yeah,
And I think they know that. And I think
yeah.
this is all about I think the biggest thing for Purdue is how many games do you guys play tough and show improvement?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Barry Odom's got to prove
Well, and
to
how
the
do you grow
world.
throughout the year too?
Yeah.
Right? Like how do you sustain that growth? How do you have it, and how do you play well against other teams? Because
Yeah. They have to show the rest of the world that they can be a functional football team.
yeah. Let's go to Minnesota. We both have Minnesota 8-4, I believe.
I have them
No,
7
you
and
have them
5.
7-5. Okay. But really around that range, we both have them going over the win total. I actually have Minnesota losing to Wisconsin. I feel like it's going to be the flip this year, where Wisconsin's going to be vying for that bowl game, and they're going to play really hard for Luke Fickell at the end of the year. I know it's at Minnesota. Don't come at me, Minnesota fans. But I also think Minnesota gets some big wins this season. I think they take care of business against Cal. I think they beat Nebraska, which is going to be huge for them. I think they have a chance to beat Iowa here. I did not select them to beat Iowa, but I don't think that's out of the question for that to happen. And then the Wisconsin game. I mean, if Minnesota wins that Wisconsin game, and I'm just totally wrong, and Wisconsin gives up on Luke Fickell by the end of the year, you're looking at a Minnesota team that could be 9-3, 8-4, and that's really, really impressive if they're able to do that this season.
Yeah, I just find it hard. I don't know how I feel about who their playmakers are. And I like Drake Lindsay is probably the guy.
He was at Media Days. He's the guy.
Yeah, like he's the guy, but is he the guy? Like, is he gonna be like Max Brosmer? Is he gonna be able to carry that? And I just don't. I have questions about who they go to outside of Darius Taylor, right? Like everybody knows Darius Taylor's a stud, but is this offensive line going to be as good as a year ago? My one counter to your Wisconsin take, I trust PJ Fleck way more than Luke Fickell right now.
Yeah, I definitely trust PJ Fleck more too, but I don't know. It's a rivalry game, right? And it's honestly one of the best rivalries. I keep saying that word wrong. Rivalries in all of college football. People want to put other rivalries up there. Some rivalries that aren't even going to be playing anymore here soon. To me, this is one of the longest standing rivalries in all of college football. Minnesota, Wisconsin. It's the Axe. It's one of the best ones there is, and that was one of the reasons why it was so disappointing last year, because it didn't feel like Wisconsin wanted to be there in some cases, and I don't think I'm coming at Wisconsin here. I think Wisconsin fans would agree with me. That was disappointing last year.
Mm-hmm.
If Luke Fickell wants to keep this job, he has to get his guys playing even at the end of the season. You got a bowl game on the line. I get it. That was tough with losing Phil Longo and stuff last year, but still, like you got to play hard. You still got to play for your guys. So, any other teams on here that you want to look at, Zach?
Should we have an Indiana conversation?
I mean, we both have him 9-3. Like, we answered the question the other day. I think his name was AJ. Yeah, AJ's right there too. To me, it just all stems on those 4 games, right? What are you going to do in those 4 games? I'm confident Indiana's going to beat everybody else. What do you do in those 4 games? It's home against Illinois, at Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State. Like I said in the thing, if they got Oregon at home, I would probably flip my pick on that. If Indiana got Oregon at home, I would pick Indiana to win that game. But they don't, and that's the hard part, right? That's where the schedule is just not in their favor. And I get it. They're like a 51st strength of schedule, but you look at these top-tier games that they're going to be playing, it does come down to how good is Iowa, right? Who is Mark Gronowski? Is he the guy that we think he is? Is Iowa's receivers going to be able to get separation on them? Is Illinois going to be able? Is Illinois going to be able to keep the game close, right? Because Illinois plays that kind of brand of football where you kind of want to slow them down a little bit and really work them. Indiana, they don't care to go out there and just try to blitz you and put points on you. If Indiana goes into that game against Illinois and they start blitzing Illinois, I don't know if Illinois can win in a shootout. Actually, I'm not going to say I don't know. I don't think Illinois can win in a shootout with Indiana if their offense is as high-powered as it was last year. But the biggest thing is that game is so early. It's the first test for Fernando Mendoza, right? Is Fernando Mendoza going to be the guy by then? It's just Illinois has the experience. Illinois has the dudes that have been coming back. And so those early matchups, I feel better about Illinois.
Yeah. You know who I really feel good about is Blue Wolverine. And gifting 20 Big Ten Huddle football memberships. Blue Wolverine, you are the man. Thank you so much.
Wolverine. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate it, man. Thank you. If you manage to get a membership from Blue Wolverine, that's awesome. Thank Blue Wolverine for that. Good dude. Thanks, Blue Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on Indiana?
Here
we go. Here we go. I can say my German now. Gable. Right? Or French. That's probably French, actually. Now that I think about it, I think I'm speaking French. So.
Are you? I should know this. I'm going there in the fall. I'm going
Well,
to
ask
Paris
him when you
for
get there.
several days.
Ask him when you get there.
I'll say,
Like, how do you say this?
how do you say this swear word? Go blue. That just sounds.
I just did, Philip. You don't like my accent? I just did.
Go blue.
All
Fuck
right,
me
what were you gonna
blue.
say on Indiana?
Yeah, I think the thing that's hard is, and AJ was talking about the roster and how people are sleeping on it. That's the thing. I don't think we are. I think we are actually.
I definitely think there are other people that are sleeping on the roster,
Yes,
though.
yes,
There are
yeah,
definitely other people that are.
yeah. But I think if I could just gently push back, I think we're saying the roster's really good, and yet you have to understand it's not Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. Like it just isn't. Like I know you guys are really high on your receiving core. It's not it's a top 3 receiving core. It's not the best in the conference, and it's probably not the second best in the conference. Like I know you love your quarterback, and I know you love your offensive line. There's a reason why Zen Mikulski was shipped out of Ohio State. Like you need to be there. There's context with this. So I'm not, but that's not to say that I think the roster is bad. I just think you have to worry about depth, which I think the depth is better, but it's not the same high end as the top teams in the conference. And because of that, you're going to run into trouble because this schedule is harder. It is much harder than a year ago. And so you can't just grind, you can't just blow everybody out until you get to Michigan and Ohio State. Like that's not what this is going to be. You're getting hit hard, Illinois at Iowa. You're getting hit hard after that. At Oregon's going to be tough. At Penn State's going to be tough. Wisconsin's going to be tougher than you want. Like it's just you're dealing with big boy offensive lines and defensive lines.
Yeah, I mean, they faced good defensive lines last year too. Nebraska was a good defensive line, and they handled them. I get Ohio State fans aren't going to like this, and that's fine. They didn't like it when I said it last year either. But like, guys, Indiana was only down 7 points at halftime. That defense was absolutely demolishing Indiana, and Ohio State still only had a lead of 14-7. And one of those scores was off what was it? Like a missed snap, or not even a missed snap. I think the punter just dropped the ball, right? So you had special teams errors for Indiana, which really caused their issues. Obviously, Caleb Downs took the one back too, and Indiana outrushed Ohio State in that game as well. So, like, I get the line of scrimmage things that everybody wants to bring up, but also Ohio State just went an entire season with Josh Fryer at right tackle. I don't think your right tackle is nearly as important as your left tackle, right? Obviously, in the Big Ten, you got some really good pass rushers on both sides, but for the most part, you can help out your right tackle well enough. You shouldn't have to help out your left tackle. That's when you have a problem. You have to help them both out. But if you're able to just leave your left tackle out there, and Carter Smith is a really, really good left tackle. Like, he should be getting consideration for one of the best left tackles in all of college football, but he doesn't because of the way things happen at Ohio State last year. And I get Notre Dame was tough too, right? But Curtis Rourke was also playing on a torn ACL. What does this team look like with a healthy Fernando Mendoza? What does this team look like with guys who are coming back playing for Bob Bostad, right? Again for another year. Like the amount of returners on this team, people are not giving near enough credit for. So I'm not picking Oregon and Penn State to beat Indiana because it's like, oh yeah, they can't beat the big guys. I'm picking them because they're away. That Oregon trip is terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Penn State, they might get Penn State, but Penn State's also going to have a huge environment for them because guess what? That's what Cignetti brings. I love Cignetti, and I think Cignetti does a whole lot of good for Indiana. But when you play Cignetti in your place, you want to make sure he hears you, right? So to me, it's got nothing to do with like roster's not good enough or anything like that. To me, it's the unfortunate part of having to go to Oregon. It's the unfortunate part of having to go to Penn State, and the unfortunate part of just playing Illinois early when they're a super experienced team. So,
Yeah.
I love Indiana's roster. I think Indiana's got all Big Ten caliber players all over the place. But
I if I can push it, I like their roster.
Oh, I love it.
I
What
like
don't you
it.
like?
I It's similar to I think actually how I feel about Illinois, which I'm going to get. And remember, I picked Illinois to beat Ohio State, so take this with a grain of salt. But there is a certain way that Illinois has to win. And I would argue that.
Yeah, but Michigan was the same way, and they won a national championship.
Well, yeah. But I'm just saying there are limitations, right? And I think with Indiana, there are a few limitations compared to the elite programs in the conference. So that would be my one pushback. So I think, that's me being sober-minded. But that being said, I do like this team a lot. I think anybody that says that Indiana is going to fade back into obscurity is wrong. But I think at the same time, there's a reason why both of us have 9-3.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said in my thing, I'm taking the low end here, right? I said Indiana 9-11 wins, somewhere in there. I took the low end. I put them at 9-3. It would not shock me at all if they win 11 games.
Yeah. To explain context, the Illini want me to pick against them every game because every time I pick against them, they win. Yeah. So unfortunately, because I have
Bubba's getting at.
Yeah. So unfortunately for them, I have them at 10-2 and making the Big Ten championship game. So this could be a problem for the Illini at least.
Dave says Illinois has the weakest schedule.
No,
it's either Illinois or Nebraska.
Really? You think they have a weak schedule?
Illinois? I wouldn't say it's weak, but it's favorable. I mean, at Duke, yeah. I mean, that's one of the better ACC teams. At Indiana, yeah, that's hard. USC at home, yeah. USC at home, like, don't get me wrong. I think USC is going to have a good team this year. I like Jaden Maava, but it's just travel, right? Like that is so tough to be able to get over. And USC was in so many close games last year. Illinois was able to get in close games. They were able to win it out. So I like that matchup there. Purdue, I like that matchup there. Ohio State, Washington, I think those are both difficult games there, especially at Washington. But then the final four games, like Rutgers, Maryland, at Wisconsin, Northwestern. Not trying to be disrespectful to those teams, but I think Illinois wins all four of those games.
No, you're right. You're right. At Duke is more tricky than I think people are given credit for. But
and also, I mean, if you look at the travel rankings that I put out there, like Illinois travels the least amount out of anybody in the Big Ten. Now it's 1 mile less than Purdue. Purdue is the next lowest at 1 mile more. But Illinois travels the least amount. And I think that means something. That's another reason why I picked Ohio State to win the conference this year, is because Ohio State has the fourth least. They have the second hardest schedule according to ESPN FBI strength of schedule. Take that for what it's worth. But they have the second hardest schedule in the Big Ten. But they have the fourth lowest travel amount. Outside of Washington, they really don't travel all that far. I don't think they have a single game over 500 miles they travel, except for Washington. Yeah, because Illinois, Wisconsin, Purdue, Michigan, none of those are over 500 miles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Can we, before we get out of here, can we talk week 1, Ohio State, Texas a little bit? I know we'll talk about it more in a few weeks, but I was listening to, do you mind if we talk about it?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
So I was listening to Kings of the North, which I love that show. It's great. It's a great show that also covers the Big Ten and all Northern football. If you don't listen to it, go and listen to it. It's great. Doug Lesmerises, Bill Landis, those guys are great. They both have Texas winning, and most of their rationale is they like the continuity of the staff, and they like Arch Manning having at least some experience over Ohio State's lack of continuity in the coaching staff with Brian Hartline, with Matt Patricia.
Why is staff continuity important?
That was going to be my questions. So I feel like as they were talking, I'm like, I respect, out of any media people, they're the ones I respect the most. Like I think they actually do the work. They do a great job of having their own thoughts and opinions. They don't follow groupthink, which I really appreciate. But I think as I was listening to the talk, I'm like, I think there are pathways for Texas to win. Like I think they're uber talented. I think they're really good. I do think Arch Manning's gonna be really good. But I just felt like a lot of the rationale for why Texas was gonna win was like, I mean, but Ohio State has the best two players in college football, and it's at home. And I know home football has not, like, home games have not always been a big predictor of success for Ohio State. But I think they're going to be pretty amped for the first game of the season. I don't care that it's big noon. I think they're going to care that it's Texas. I think they're going to care that they get to see Jeremiah Smith play again. Like, I think they're going to be loud.
Well, I mean, you go to pretty much anybody that played Ohio State last year. I mean, the Michigan players don't say it, but I wouldn't say it if I was the Michigan players either. But pretty much everybody gave Ohio State props for being loud and having fans that made it difficult to hear in that place. Nobody's saying that it's the loudest they've ever been, but they definitely talk about how impactful it is. So yeah, I think very first game of the year against Texas, you're going to get that. To me, that's one of the biggest factors here is the home field advantage. I think home field advantage is bigger than staff continuity personally, and I think people are just completely glossing over that. Listen, Ohio State went into Texas last year. That's where the playoff game was, in Texas. Yep. And they won that game against Texas, right? Now, Arch Manning could be better than Quinn Ewers this year. First game though? I mean, yeah. Maybe. Like, he started a couple games, he's played in a few games, but it's not been any Mississippi State. And who was the other one? Like UL Monroe. Sorry, that doesn't cut it for playing against Ohio State at all. And Arch Manning is essentially a brand new starter, in my opinion. Yes, he's been there a year longer than Julian Sayin, but I have a feeling that Julian Sayin knows the offense pretty well too. If he knows that he's going to be the guy, and as far as I'm concerned, yes, it's going to hurt Ohio State to not have staff continuity. You know what else hurts Texas? They don't know what defense Ohio State is running, right? Yep. They don't know exactly what kind of offense Brian Hartline is running. I mean, they know they're going to air it out, but this is not going to be the RPO offense of Chip Kelly. Brian Hartline's not going to put that together. This is going to be the Ryan Day offense, but it's going to have Brian Hartline's stamp on it. So, I mean, I get the staff continuity stuff too, but as far as I'm concerned, Texas doesn't know what to plan for with Matt Patricia and Brian Hartline. They can go off last year, but you really think a guy like Matt Patricia is going to come into Ohio State and say, yeah, I'm going to do what this, his entire career college defensive coordinator is going to do? No. Matt Patricia won multiple Super Bowls at New England. And you can say it's Bill Belichick, but you best believe he's bringing that Bill Belichick defense with him.
Yeah. Billy made a good point here. Texas has questions on the offensive line, OSU on the D line. I would argue, especially early in the season, I think that advantage goes to Ohio State because Texas is bringing back one starter. I think Ohio State's front line could be one of the best in the country. Now, their depth is what concerns me, but
interior depth.
Yeah, interior depth in particular. But I think you're talking about an offensive line that is that has one starter back. They lost a first rounder. They lost another one that was, I think they had 2 or 3 guys drafted off that line. They've recruited really well on the offensive line. So it's not to say that they won't have guys, but I think Ohio State's defensive line is primed to have a good performance in this game. And you've seen more out of them, I think. Edric Houston, obviously getting Bo Atkinson out of the portal was huge. Caden McDonald, and then Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson. Like, those guys, they've been there a while. They have a lot of reps under their belt. They did lose 4 starters, but it's not like those guys didn't play. They've played meaningful minutes and they've been impactful. So I think that edge goes to Ohio State.
Certainly early on. Yeah. I mean, if it was later on in the season, Texas might, just depending on how they play, they might have the edge, but early on in the season at Ohio State, I mean,
yeah.
What if Texas comes in and pulls what I don't want to say pulls what Indiana pulls because it sounds like Indiana did that. But what if what happened to Texas happens to, or what if what happened to Indiana happens to Texas, right? What if Texas comes in there, their center is not nearly as sharp as he needs to be, they can't hear each other, they're not working together as a unit, and Ohio State's able to just blitz and get to Arch Manning, 4 or 5 times during the game and put pressure on him all game long, you
Yeah.
know? How comfortable is a new starting quarterback going to be on that? All right, I sound like a big homer right now. Okay, I'm not like sitting here like 95% Ohio State wins. All right, the reason I'm pushing back on it so much is because everybody I hear talking is like, oh yeah, Texas is going to win this game. Texas has all of this. Texas has all of that. Yeah, Texas has a lot on defense coming back. That's great,
Yeah.
right? But Texas also has a lot of new players on offense. They have a new quarterback. They have
Yeah.
they got rid of not they didn't get rid of Matthew Golden went to the NFL. Like they have a whole new offensive line for the most part. Like there's a lot on the offense
Yeah.
with Texas that I just don't feel super confident. And then on top of that, Ohio State's gonna have Matt Patricia running not an entirely new defense because you can't switch over an entire defense that quick, but
Mhm.
very much so new defense for Ohio State that Texas is going to have to adjust to and get to. I still think it's going to be a very close one, and I'm probably 55% Ohio State, 45% Texas, but this whole idea that like, oh yeah, Texas is going to for sure win and everybody picks Texas, I just don't get it.
Well, and I think the reasons why people are saying it, that's what doesn't make sense to me. Like Arch Manning has more experience. Barely.
Yeah,
He has
two
he's
starts against Mississippi State and UL Monroe, like
how many meaningful snaps has he taken? Like he took one in the Ohio State game. He took a few against Georgia, I think. But other than that, like he has not been given the lion's share against anybody remotely good. And I think for people, like I get that people think he's the heir apparent to like the next great quarterback, but I just and maybe he goes out and he drops 300 yards passing and runs for 75 and leads them to a win in Columbus. I think that's on the table. But I think if that's what you're projecting for his first start against a legitimate title contender, I just think that's a bit off. There's pathways for Texas to win this game. I like Ohio State, especially early in the season. I think their pathway to victory. Here's one other thing that you didn't mention. A lot of their defense is coming back. You know who's not coming back? Jade Barron and Makuba. They're starting safety.
yeah, they
And
got
like
Taffy back, but not the other one. Yeah,
yeah, and Muhammad was a liability in coverage last year, their other corner. So I'm like, man, now you have to go against maybe the best tight end in the country and Max Clare, and you've got Jeremiah Smith, and you've got Brandon Innes, and you've got Carnell Tate and Mylan Graham and all these weapons. And then on the other side with wide receivers, they didn't just lose Matthew Golden. They lost Isaiah Bond. They lost Silas Bolden. Like those are legitimate playmakers. Trey Wingo needs to become a complete receiver to really be a threat. Like he's a gadget guy. He was more of a gadget guy a year ago than a complete receiver.
right. Ryan Wingo, you mean?
Yes, Ryan Wingo, not Trey Wingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trey Wingo's an former ESPN analyst. My bad.
I was like, I don't think he's wearing the Texas helmet.
Yeah, my bad. Not Trey.
You're
Not
good.
Trey. You knew what I meant.
Yeah. Zach, did you watch the Texas Mississippi State game?
I think I've seen clips where the throws that Arch made were not awe-inspiring.
Yeah. He had the big throw that was like the 50-yard pass at the end of the second quarter, but that game with a minute left in the second quarter was 7-6. Like, I mean, Texas obviously eventually pulled ahead, Arch, but even for pretty much the entire third quarter, it was 14-6. Arch scored on a 1-yard run to end it. So, by no means am I saying that Arch won't be good. Obviously, Arch is going to be good. Okay, he doesn't get all the hype, and he doesn't get all that stuff to make it seem like he's going to be bad or whatever. But I mean, if you struggle for the first 3 quarters against Mississippi State at home, I mean,
Not good.
I'm not saying he's going to be bad at Ohio State. Just it doesn't inspire all the confidence in me
Yeah.
in the world. So,
Yeah. There's a reason why Ohio State's a favorite.
yeah, they should be. But but nobody's picking them, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
So I was expecting some like half and half. Like, some people would pick Texas, some people would pick Ohio State. You get a lot of podcast conversations of the two and go into each other. But yeah.
You know who's gonna pick Ohio State?
Who?
Lee Corso.
Oh yeah, he will pick Ohio State.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, that would be sad.
It'd be hilarious if he didn't, and then Ohio State won by like 50.
That's the other thing too. Like I was getting ready to write this the other day, but like, who's to say Ohio State doesn't come out and just like do what they did to Tennessee, to Texas? Like, obviously Texas's defense is better, but all it takes is one or two plays of Jeremiah Smith,
Well, I think with the receivers, anything's possible. I think Tennessee's roster was a lot worse than Texas's.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. But what I'm saying is like Ohio State last year slowed it down so much.
Yeah.
What if they just say screw it, go out there and play, go out there and hit them in the mouth right away, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be the slow kind of pace stuff like we saw last year for Ohio State. I think we're gonna see more of what we saw in the playoffs, at least the first game of the year. I don't know if we'll see it all year, but
Yeah.
So all right, that's all I got. Anything else from you?
No, this is good.
Okay. All right, good discussion. Those are our Big Ten stating predictions. We appreciate everybody being here. Spoiler alert: Zach and I will not be totally right in our, Big Ten predictions.
How dare you? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, nobody will be totally right. The season's going to come soon, and it's going to be crazy, and it's going to be fun. But we're about 30 days away at this point.
Yeah.
It's almost here. It's very fun, very cool, and I can't wait.
Is just one last question. Hooligan, friend of the show, didn't Lee retire for good? His last game is Ohio State, Texas.
Which I think his first game he did was at Ohio State. So that was
Actually,
I don't know if it's been announced they're going to Ohio State yet. Are they?
Yes.
Oh, they did announce that?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of Florida State people were mad. It's like, you guys sucked last year. Of course they weren't going there.
Yeah. What'd Dave say? Dave said, damn the SEC bias. Sorry, I'm not going to say the whole thing there. Damn the SEC bias. Yeah, exactly. It is infiltrating our Big Ten. Dave, can you believe it? Terrible. Terrible. Philip says, who's more wrong? You know what? I will leave that to you guys to say.
Now, they're going to say I was more wrong. Philip is always going to say I'm more wrong.
Well, why do you think I had him say it?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. All right. Billy says, see you guys. Illini Bubba says, great show. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We appreciate it. We'll come back Tuesday night, 9 p.m. We'll have podcasts and everything on Wednesday morning. So thanks for being here, everybody. Have a good one.